Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 10 of the PowettPlay Podcast. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, Karen Powell. How are you, Kai?
I'm good, Jordan. How are you?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, thank you. It's getting the Christmas spirit here at the minute. But yeah, it's all good, thank you very much. I sort of want to get going with the series the one-day series that just finished Sunday night with the West Indies versus England. And what was your take on it, really?
Uh, Good series. Obviously, two teams that, young in the sense that, two teams that are progressing and building towards the next ODI World Cup.
Yeah,
For England, it would be, I guess, a devastating blow having had a bad World Cup run and then trying to, I guess, restart the ODI leg of the ODI format of things as a nation in the Caribbean in terms of building towards the next World Cup cycle. But for the West Indies, it was obviously huge victory, first time from since 1998 that they've won an ODI series against England.
yeah,
And obviously, you had lots of players stepping up. Captain Shea Hope being
yeah,
Shea, Ford coming in on debut in that last match, having a good game. And you saw lots of glimpses from a few players that that's sort of what West Indies cricket's looking for. Obviously they showed faith in Athens and Casey Carty, and both had some contributions in the
yeah.
series, which are good signs for West Indies cricket. So hopefully those two guys can obviously take heart from their performances as well and continue to grow. And then I think that Gudakesh Moti goes sort of under the radar, but
Yeah.
he's a very skilled bowler. His control of line and length, understanding when to do what against who has been extremely impressive to me. Looking at the West Indies bowling attack and sort of knowing that it's basically him and Alzari as genuine strike force bowlers because O'Shane didn't play
Yeah.
this last match as well, which puzzled me. But no, very very good series, interesting series for two teams that are sort of, I guess, balanced level in terms of where they're at as nations right now. So it was a good
Yeah.
series.
Yeah, I think you mentioned there a little bit of this transition period for both teams that's going to have to take place over a period of time. I was so impressed with, I think, the fact that England obviously posted that such a large total in the first one day international, and then for the West Indies to go and chase that, and which obviously Shea's innings was just superb. He showed, as we've discussed many times on this podcast, he showed all three types of an innings from a test match style to the one day style to then the aggressiveness at the end. And it just goes to show that, and like I said, we've discussed it many times, you are not just a white ball player or a red ball player. During an innings like that, you have to show that resilience, the toughness, the mental toughness to go out and start the innings, to then obviously get yourself going and to finish it in the way he did. I thought it was absolutely superb. I really, really did. And I think it sort of give the whole team that confidence to think, yeah, okay, England on paper and in previous years gone by have been a really, really tough team to beat. And they still are a tough team to beat, don't get me wrong. But we've gone out there and not only chased, a really, really big total, we've done it in a fashion that shows that we can match these lads. And I thought it made a real statement, and it sort of set the series off to the standard it sort of remained throughout the other two games as well.
Yeah, no, I think it's interesting for me, the whole Shea Hope situation, because I don't understand why people don't necessarily associate him or consider him to be like a great of one day cricket yet. Because when you look
Mm.
at his numbers, I mean, he's matched Viv Richards and Sir Viv Richards
Yeah,
and Virat Kohli in terms of joint amount equal innings to 5,000 ODI runs with only Babar Azam and Hashim Amla in front of them.
yeah,
16 ODI centuries. I think there are only maybe, if I'm not mistaken, maybe two people from the West Indies in front of him. And then you look at his counterparts at the same level. I mean, he's neck and neck. I mean, with the likes of a Babar Azam, who's
yeah,
sort of closest in terms of comparison to age and matches, runs, centuries, etc. And Babar Azam is obviously, after you come away from the Virats and all these other guys at the highest level of the game, and you're talking about guys that are performing now, it's sort of a Quinton de Kock, Shea Hope, Babar
yeah,
Azam type conversation. So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think people are going to start having to understand that this is truly a generational type player that we are
Yeah,
experiencing at the moment, and understand that we are witnessing greatness here for sure.
yeah, definitely. Do you think that the impact he'll have on that side will be seen now for a long time because of, like you said, he is a generational top class player, and you mentioned him with all those top names you've had with Zamukins and the Cox. Sorry, you mentioned obviously with Hashim Amla. Was sorry, I lost my train of thought a little bit there. But do you think that has a real positive impact on that young group of players because he is such a good player that he instills that confidence within that side?
I think it should do, but I think it's not even just the fact that he's such a good player. I think it's just the way that he lives, like his
Right.
dedication to fitness, and making sure that every single day he's doing what he can to get
Yeah.
the best out of himself, from a physical standpoint in terms of his preparation, the way he eats, the lifestyle he lives. I've never seen him like out doing any like crazy partying or drinking, anything like that.
Yeah.
So he's fully dedicated and focused to being as great as he possibly can, and getting as much out of himself as he possibly can. And I mean, you look at the results, because obviously earlier in his career as well, there was sort of a stigma around his well, it wasn't a stigma. He was a slow scorer in terms of he'd get runs, but they weren't quick enough for what the team needed, and the way one day cricket and the way cricket on a whole was sort of shifting towards faster scoring rates. But
Right.
now you see over the past year and a half, his scoring rate has increased drastically, to the point where he was the leading run scorer in the CPL this season. He's back
Yeah.
in the West Indies T20 team as vice captain,
Yeah.
for the series starting this evening. So again, as I said, it's constant work on himself as a cricketer nonstop, whether that's on the field, in the nets, just always looking for little one percenters, and that's all it really is. It's never really the big things. It's more so being able to stay disciplined without supervision, that's going to get you to that level, as opposed to anyone can do the right thing when there's coaches there, when there's a proper system, when there's proper
Yeah.
infrastructure around you. But being able to not only do the right things when there isn't that in place, when you're at home on your own, but to do it for long periods of time as well, which Shea has shown. And I think that if he can sort of, I mean, he's going to have sort of a firm hand about it in terms of being the leader of the team as well, because he's not just the best player, but he's also the captain. So,
Yeah.
in terms of driving standards and what he wants and what he expects, and look, if you're not living up to that, I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to go, because this is what this team and this region and the cultural shift that needs to happen. This is what needs to be done to ensure that the West Indies get to where they want to get to.
Yeah. No, it's really, some really good points there, definitely. How do you see the T20 series going that starts tonight?
Oh, it's interesting, because West Indies, I mean, as usual, it's lots of firepower in the
Yeah.
batting. So it's not going to be a situation where you find batters hanging about because there's
Yeah.
someone else there that can go at 150, 170, whatever the case is.
Yeah.
Um, from a bowling standpoint, that's where it's going to be interesting. West Indies have brought back, I guess, Andrew Russell is back for the
Yeah.
series. Hasn't played for a few years. I don't know what to expect from that selection, if I'm going to be totally honest. But obviously, someone that's experienced in relations to playing leagues around the world, etc. You've got, I guess, Jason Holder coming back in, and Akil Hussein coming back in as well, who's been on a
Yeah.
high out in Abu Dhabi T10.
Yeah.
So I think that from the West Indies standpoint, it's going to be another testing, series for them, because
Yeah.
England, all told, this isn't the best or strongest T20 squad out in the Caribbean at the moment. They're sort of exploring their depth,
Yeah.
because the World Cup is in the Caribbean and the USA in 6 months' time, which is crazy to think about. That we literally just finished a 50 over
I
World
know.
Cup, and the next World
Yeah.
Cup right upon us again. So it's an explorational period for both teams, to see where they're at, to see what they need, to see I guess, if who they have at the moment will be in the reckoning, and if not, how quickly do they move on and give other people exposure at the international level? Because 6 months is a very short time. In 3 weeks'
Yeah,
time, it's basically New Year, and then we're racing towards that T20 World Cup again. So, from an England standpoint, pretty much know what they want. I mean, just I don't think it's a matter of win or lose for them this T20 series, more so than exploring new
yeah,
options. As I said,
yeah,
because it's not their strongest team. Um, they would like to win, obviously, not having much success in the limited overs versions of things
yeah.
of recent times. So to build morale amongst the group and to try and get guys back in a good space, it would be great for them to win. But I don't necessarily see it as a be all end all from an England standpoint.
No, I think it's quite important for England to start to gather a bit of positive momentum, though, in terms of from performances. I think it's quite important to see Joss Butler trying, get some momentum from a performance perspective ahead of that T20 sort of World Cup, because I think he's going to be, he has been heavily criticised over his captaincy, but let's not, go around the fact that he's still arguably top 5 white ball players in world cricket from a batting perspective. The ability to go up to play 360 the way he does and how destructive he can be. I think it's quite important for England to get Joss Butler firing, for the World Cup. He's going to play such an important role.
No, 100%. Josh Butler on his best day, we know what he can do and what he has done for a long period of time.
Yeah.
So it's for him. It's not a matter of, I would say personally, not a matter of getting him firing, but just getting his confidence back.
Yeah.
And I think as much as playing cricket, people think that may be the way forward. I think it might actually be for him to take a break from cricket and take a step back, or maybe not even necessarily take a break from cricket, but just go away from the England setup for a bit. Go and play in a different franchise league or something where there's not obviously the same scrutiny, all the same eyeballs on you, and just have that freedom where it's not everything revolved around you as the captain and the leading player, and sort of refresh and come back. Because come the summer, it's a long way away from now, so a player's form now doesn't necessarily count towards anything going into a World Cup. You can have players they're in dismal form at the moment, and by the time the World Cup comes around, I mean, if you look at this World Cup that just went, in the build up to it, Glenn Maxwell had a broken foot.
Yeah.
So there was no talk of us seeing any of these heroics that he did on the cards, but look at his performances in the tournament, So I mean, players will be in and out of form, but he's not like a new kid on the block or anything. No. He's an experienced campaigner. No. Lots of experience, and he'll be fine.
Yeah, it's such a good point that you make there, that sometimes when it comes to form and things, the automatic responses for them to go and play more cricket, go and hit more balls, go and do this and go and do that, and play with freedom or that. What the point you made there about someone taking time away from the game is really sort of quite an impactful thing to say, because as a cricketer yourself, like I said, from the press perspective, like England over here, if Josh was to turn around and say, you know what, I'm going to go and play, I'm going to go and finish the BBL, play the last 6 games in the BBL, for instance, so I'm going to go and do this. That over here, in my opinion, would be perceived as being a money-orientated thing to do, for instance, or him taken away from England because of the pressures or something. People probably don't sort of think about the actual mental aspect of just taking his part in way with England for a little bit, like I said, taking his mind away from England, focusing on himself for a little bit. I don't think the press and people in England pick up on the importance of that, really, and it's such a good point you make.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about players' mental health and all these things that are thrown about in this day and age. You look at a cricketer's life. You're on tour, whether it's with your country or through a franchise league, at the very least 6 months a year. More often than not, you're talking about 10, to 11 months out of the
Yeah.
year. And so it becomes draining over time, because this is someone that's been playing for England for over 10 years. So you're talking about 10 months a year on tour for 10 years.
Yeah.
You literally you have no time to yourself, no time to be um a partner, you have no time to be a friend to your friends, you have no time to be a father to your kids. Credit goes out to all the people that marry cricketers. Emma's just in the background laughing. Because like when you think about tour life, honestly, it's literally it's sort of unfair, because like you go to practice. Practice may last for a few hours, whatever the case is. You come back, you've got to do rehab and all these other things.
Yeah.
Something that guys are absolutely in love with is golf. So guys go and then play golf after that, and then you still have to find time for your wife. You still have to find time for the guys with kids, to go and spend time with it, because at the end of the day, you're still first and foremost a husband and a father for the guys that have kids.
Yeah.
And you have to sort of know how to balance your life. So then people don't care about that. The media don't care about all of these
No.
other things. They literally only see what you do on the field,
Yeah.
and it's so simple minded to just see, oh, this guy's scored runs, or this guy's out of form, he hasn't scored runs for
Yeah.
whatever period of time, when there's so much more aspects to look. And again, these are people that should know this, because if you have, for example, the media start going into someone that's not an athlete, just going into their job every day and just videoing them all day at work,
Yeah.
they'll understand the pressures of, oh my God, this camera's on me 8 to 4 every single day I get here. Even when I'm eating lunch,
Yeah.
they're trying to get a peek at me. When I get home, they're outside of my gate. So, there's a lot of other things that need to be factored in. And then you sort of understand the pressures of being an athlete. And that doesn't even include traveling, which is, again, time consuming, going from hotel to hotel, taxis, buses, planes, all these other things.
Yeah. I think with the Joss Butler thing as well, is it coming, leaving India in the way that England did, is constantly going to be on his mind. You start to probably not necessarily doubt yourself as a player, but you might be doubting himself as a captain. Could I have done this differently? Could I have done that differently? And then all of a sudden you're then thrown into this ODI series against the West Indies, and it's still at the back of your mind a little bit, and you've got a new group of players that you're now working with and stuff. And I think sometimes that, like you said, that break will have such a positive impact on not just him, but also the team, in the fact that they might feel like they get that captain back. He might have that, bit more of a spring in his step, or, from I said, from a mental health perspective, he's just in a lot brighter, a lot more chirpy, because he's had that time away. He's recharged the batteries and such. So, it's something that England needs to probably look at a little bit, to make sure that ahead of the World Cup, that the key players, not necessarily the key players, all the players are at that peak performance at the right time. So hopefully that's something to keep an eye on.
I honestly don't think he should have been on this tour. I don't think he should have been near one-day cricket for an extended period of time, because England's next major assignment, I guess, is the Champions Trophy in 2025, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And so they could have at least given him until the English summer to sort of stay away from one-day cricket, get your bearings back. Let's start getting our best T20 team together. I mean, just giving him the rest of the year off, and then, as they did with the build-up for the 2019 World Cup, let's get our best T20 team together for every series. From the start of the English summer going in, it's going to be our best players, and then obviously guys will go off to IPL and stuff, and then come back prime and ready for the T20 is the approach that I have taken, because now he could have been, as I said, somewhere on holiday, just sort of completely decompressing, getting all that, just have a mental dump and just relax and spend Christmas with his family.
No, definitely. I just want to sort of touch a little bit on the test series between Bangladesh and New Zealand, and with Bangladesh winning the first test, and then New Zealand winning the second test, and looking at the sort of analysis of the game, the sort of sheer volume of spin that was bowled in the both test matches so far. As a batter, how how different is it to sort of to face that continued sort of spin after spin after spin, rather than sort of what you see as an opener to, you know, you might have 20 overs of pace, and then one end might be spin, and sort of the varied amount. How does your mind sort of work when you've constantly got spin on?
Well, I mean, you're prepared for it going into the series because you know the way that Bangladesh want to play their
Yeah,
cricket. And I mean, if that's what this is, their home advantage, well, I mean, fair play to them.
fair play to them. Yeah,
But it's not it's not really, I mean, good cricket. I mean, when you see sort of some of the best players in the world like struggling to not even get a single, like struggling to survive, like because the pitches out there are so drastically different than I guess most other places in
yeah,
Asia where like you find the new ball, like it slides on, it spins, it keeps slow, it pops, like it's literally like a minefield, like you're walking on a beach in Guantanamo Bay trying to get to the base for safety. And you just dodge explosives until one just starts of hits you and then boom, you're gone.
yeah,
So it's a tricky, touchy situation. And trust me, I've been to Bangladesh a number of times. I've been there when the pitches have been beautiful for batting. I've been there when it's been nightmares, and you just know, like, try and get as much as you can while you can, because like
yeah,
you know. And I mean, the scores in the games reflect sort of that, because I mean, you look at Glenn Phillips's performance in that second Test match. That 80 would be worth probably 150
yeah,
on a better pitch.
yeah,
I mean, that's how Bangladesh see that they have a chance to win Test matches, and ultimately it's a World Test Championship, and
yeah.
it
That's
doesn't
yeah,
yeah, it doesn't necessarily matter what we like to see
yeah,
as game. They have to try and find a way that they can get as many points as possible as a nation, and
yeah,
so this is their, I guess, their advantage, and fair play to them for doing that, because when they go overseas and they get green seamers, and that's again foreign to them,
yeah,
it goes in the other team's favor. So they're doing
yeah.
what they can sort of give themselves a chance.
I know you mentioned Phillips is 81, but I thought Kane Williams' 100 in the first test was just just magnificent. It really, really was. I think, you know, it's one of them that people keep mentioning at times. It's you know, Babar Azam and Steve Smith and Root, but that he for me is just such a
So
beautiful player to watch.
I have a hierarchy, and I think that he's the second best Test batsman of the current lot. Obviously, Steve Smith is not from this planet in terms of Test match cricket, and then you can pick between Virat and Joe. I
Yeah,
sort of go with Joe for, but we've been robbed of a lot of Kane Williamson because of injuries, etc.
injuries
And,
and stuff. Yeah,
like all the other three have gone past 100 test already. He's still at 95 or 96 or something like that, and he's got
yeah,
29 centuries on par. And the last four test matches he played before this one, he's scored a century in each of them as well. And then you look at even his performances in the World Cup, like he
yeah,
probably wasn't even supposed to be at the World Cup after that injury he got in the IPL.
yeah.
Came straight in and scored, I think, 70 something, and then got his finger broken. Sat out a few games at the World Cup, came back in, scored 90 something
Nice. Yeah,
with
indeed.
probably a half fractured finger. So, it's just very high quality player across formats. And he's someone that I guess truly reflects what I say in you're a cricketer, not a white ball player or red ball.
Yeah,
Because you don't associate Kane with any type of power hitting or anything. And Kane has been playing in the IPL for years upon years. He's
yeah.
been, again, outstanding in Test cricket, outstanding in one day cricket. So, kudos to Kane, and like that New Zealand system for being able to, I guess, manufacture and find and keep talent in a country that's predominantly rugby oriented.
Yeah, yeah. No, no. He's a terrific player. And he's so good to watch on the eye. He's such a classy batter. The first test of the Australian summer starts on the 14th, which will be Thursday night, our side here. I read an article today, and I haven't checked it, so I might be completely wrong. But I don't think Pakistan have won a Test match in Australia since 1995, and I couldn't believe it. And I read it, and I was like, I'm not sure about that. And I googled it, and I couldn't really seem to get to the bottom of it. But do you think this Pakistan side have got enough firepower with both bat and ball to really push Australia?
I think Pakistan always have firepower with the ball. That's never really an issue for them. I mean, obviously they're missing Haris Rauf and Nazim Shah.
Yeah,
It would have been ideal for them. But Pakistan's bowling and bowling in Pakistan, whether it be at the domestic level, at the T20 franchise level, has always been amazing. Like you can, after every PSL season, they pluck a new quick bowler out
yeah,
of nowhere, a new spinner out of nowhere.
yeah,
I guess the difference is adjusting to Australian wickets because of the extra pace and bounce in most parts of Australia compared to other places around the world.
yeah,
I think the interesting thing will be sort of Pakistan's batting, because what tends to happen in Test cricket is, for example, if Australia bat for a day and a half, which is standard for Test cricket, but then Pakistan's batting falters within a day,
yeah,
then their bowlers don't get the same amount of time to rest
yeah,
as the Australian bowlers do. So then they're back in the field tired, and then the Australian batters can sort of grind away at them again. And then their bowlers are having ultimate rest down because they bowl probably 70-60% of the overs that the other team bowls for a match.
yeah,
So you're able to have sustained lengths of attacking periods from the Australian standpoint, as opposed to touring teams.
yeah,
So I think that's going to be Pakistan's biggest thing, whether they can bat and bat well, especially in the first innings. I mean, the second innings, it's generally too late to try and sort of pull back in Test cricket in general. Not saying that it doesn't happen, of course it does, but you want to sort of set up the game and sort of be on the front foot, or be at least even par with
yeah,
Australia for that first innings, giving yourself a fighting chance on deteriorating pitches. So I
yeah,
think that would be Pakistan's biggest challenge here. Obviously, with a new captain as well,
yeah,
in Masood, scored a double century in the practice
yeah.
match.
I've seen that.
So
Yeah,
yeah, he's going to be going into the match flying. Again, big adjustment coming from Canberra on a flat pitch, which is sort of M25 straight lines, as opposed to going to the Wacker, which is a 5 hour flight across country or something like that.
yeah,
Time zone change, pitch, speed of light over in the West Country.
yeah,
So those little adjustments are going to be key, and Australia are going to be ready because they haven't played Test cricket for um, a while after that World Test Championship victory, and they're going to want to show why they're World Test champions.
yeah. Definitely. I'm really intrigued to see the battles. I know that Marnus Labuschagne struggles. Well, I say struggles. He definitely doesn't struggle, but he has his issues against left arm pace. So I think that'll be an interesting battle with Shane Shah Afridi. But reading about Marnus and how meticulous he is against certain issues he has, I think that undoubtedly he would have faced numerous amounts of bowlers and in the machine with this left arm, bringing the ball back into him. So I think that's going to be an intriguing battle. And I think that, will David Warner get the fairy tale sort of finishes to his career, really?
Well, Manus is an interesting one, because I remember the first time I saw Manus when Steve Smith got hit by Jofra in the
Yeah,
Ashes. I was like, well, he had played before that, but obviously I hadn't taken any note of him, and he wasn't sort of like a regular or anything. And then the next time he saw Manus, like he just became a Superman or a Batman of Gotham City or something, like
yeah,
just completely saving the world. Like he's just exploded, and his record in Australia is
right.
second to, well, I can't say second to none. I'd say second to two, which is Bradman and Steve Smith. He absolutely, like, he loves batting in
Yeah,
Australia. His numbers in Australia are astronomical. So whatever weaknesses or deficiencies he has, sorts of, I guess they diminish when he's playing in Australia as opposed to outside of Australia. So it's important that they not only get him in early against the newer ball, but they get him out early as well,
Yeah,
because when he gets in Australia, he goes and he goes and he
he goes
goes
big.
and yep. And on to the David Warner point, I mean, it's been an interesting build up for him
Yeah,
because it's someone that I guess, unfortunately, I guess incidents he had in his youth sort of affects the way that he's perceived, um, not just in Australia but throughout the cricketing world. Because
yeah,
there's someone, if we're going to be totally honest, that is, if not the best, he's definitely top three best opening batsmen that the game of cricket has ever seen. Full stop. Across formats, I mean, he's got over 20 one-day and Test centuries. He's got T20 centuries. Amazing fielder. Um, Bowls a bit of medium pace and leg spin. Not sure that gives him any extra points. Uh, but definitely a proper cricketer, and the world of cricket will be a sadder place, a poorer place, after these first three games, if he gets through the first three games. But I mean, for someone of that caliber, and I guess for a situation like him and his ex teammate, well, he didn't
yeah,
really engage too much, but like something like what's been happening with Mitchell Johnson and
yeah.
him, who would have played alongside him for a long time. And I think Mitchell Johnson actually got taken off of commentary for the series or something.
Oh, really?
I read that yesterday, I think. So I mean, it's gotten to those lengths, which is unfortunate because you never want to see those things, and
No,
those should never play out in a public forum anyway. Like
no,
your
no,
ex teammates, if you can have a phone call, like you guys don't really have to talk again in life. It doesn't really matter.
no,
You don't live together. You're not playing together anymore anyway. So
no.
say what you have to say to each other and just move on. But from a David Warner standpoint, I'm not sure that anyone in life deserves anything. We all get, I guess, sort of what we work for,
Yeah,
based on the hand that we're played in life. And he's definitely he's definitely worked for at least the ability to have the opportunity to have something like this happen. Whatever happens now is up to him. The ball's in his court because he's been selected for the first Test match, and it's up to him to go and perform and get to that Sydney Test match that he wants to be his farewell Test. And if he does, so kudos to him, because I mean, looking at the career he's had, it's one of the best that we've ever seen from
yeah,
an batter that started as a T20 player.
yeah, definitely. I just think with the the Mitchell Johnson comments were just a little bit like I don't know how to say it, a bit like I want to try and stay irrelevant in this sort of situation thing, and it was just a bit of a disrespectful thing. I think that as you probably know, you've played with numerous players, and you might not always get on with them, and you might not be best mates with them, but ultimately you've got respect for your teammates because they've been there on the playing with you, and they've had your back, and so on and so forth, and there's got to be an element of respect throughout that. And I just don't think those remarks were necessary. Like you said, if you did have an issue with him, you just pick up the phone or you question, you do it in a respectful manner, to be honest with you. I just think it's a little bit of a shame, and it's sort of you know the whole Australian community and world cricket should be behind David Warner, and hope that he goes out in the way he deserves to go out, because yes, he made some mistakes like you mentioned, but he served his time. He held his hands up, and he's come back a much better person, I would imagine, and a much better person for the changing room and the environment and for Cricket Australia. So the country of Australia and these pundits and people who are making comments have got to understand that mistakes do happen, but ultimately, like, you've got to move on a little bit and support him, and hopefully that he does go, and like I said, he's in the first Test, so he goes and gets that dream finish in Sydney.
Yeah, and as you said, Johnson, I guess, could have dealt with it better, because he said he lashed out based on a nasty text or something he had gotten from Warner, probably in the week before, or the week of.
Yeah,
But he could have responded in a text
absolutely.
message, or just picked up the call and picked up
Yeah,
the phone and just called him and said whatever you had to say, but
Yeah,
unfortunately, it's played out this way. So, I
no,
mean, hopefully that's the end of that, and we move forward. Johnson sorts of gets reinstated into commentary. Warner has the farewell he wants, and the world keeps spinning, and this stuff stops.
no, definitely. And just like I said, it's different ways of handling stuff, and that's that, and that's life, I suppose. At the end of the day, I just think it's going to be a really good series. I do think Pakistan are possibly missing a right arm off spin option potentially, with Australia's three of the Australia top five being left handers. I think that might be a little bit of a something that they might miss a little bit. And I think you being a left hander yourself, someone having that right hand off spin option, it might just play a little bit of a part, really.
Are you big on this matchups thing?
Yeah,
Really? You're a
yeah.
big believer in that.
I
So,
a little bit, yeah.
so what happened to cricket pre T20 and all these matchups?
I won't say my key thing on matchups, but I just like to. I don't know. I look at that and I think about the top. I look at that lineup for Australia and I think that is what I'd like to. I'd like to pick a top right arm off spinner against them.
Interesting. I, I'm not necessarily big on it. Look, I think bowlers, like good bowlers, will find a way to get wickets.
Yeah, I get that. I get that.
I 100% understand the concept of someone having, I guess, less control of a ball going away from them than coming back into them because there's more chance of outside edge, etc.
Yeah,
But I don't know. It's like, for example, telling a seamer only to bowl outswingers to left-handers or
yeah.
right-handers, whatever it is, So
So do you not see that like a left arm quick, bringing it back in, like we mentioned there with Marnus and Shaheen Sharafi? Do you not see that as a battle, or do you see that as a you should be able to do that anyway, sort of thing?
I think every ball's a battle in international cricket. It
Yeah,
doesn't
no, I get
coming
your
in,
point.
going out, and you're talking about the best of the best on either
Yeah,
side. I mean, you'd be surprised to see that a leg spinner gets maybe right-handers out more. I mean, sorry, left-handers out more than he does sort of get right-handers out. I mean, Gudakesh Moti sort of alluded to it before the last ODI there, that he prefers actually bowling to left-handers because they do try to take him on a bit more. And so he gets left-handers out a bit more than right-handers who are obviously more cautious.
yeah,
And he has to work harder to get those wickets.
right. No, fair enough. Well, you put it right on my toes then. Anyway, asking that. Joining us tonight, Kai, thanks so much. Extremely insightful as always. I can't believe this is episode 10. It's flown by, and we've got plenty more planned. Some exciting guests, hopefully, in the pipeline. So please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also keep tuning in on Spotify and YouTube, plus any other platforms that are out there. So thank you very much, and stay tuned.